There is a roller coaster happening with regard to the tariffs. Those 25% tariffs that the president slapped on Canada and Mexico on Monday, well, those are apparently not happening, at least when it comes to to Mexico and not Canada. He is reversing some of them, at least maybe. Frankly, the reason why it's hard for us to describe is because nobody knows what exactly is happening. The president's Commerce Secretary said this morning that he was likely to postpone them for at least a month, but then minutes ago, President Trump said that they are going to delay those tariffs for Mexico, but not Canada. Washington, Wall Street, and Main Street have a lot riding on this. Everybody is extremely confused. Maybe Jeff Zeleny is not one of those people. Jeff, you're standing outside the White House. You're on the North Lawn. Can you give us any sense of what all this means?
Well, Dana, if there's any question of why the market has been so confused and rattled in recent days, I think the events of the last really hour sum it up quite perfectly, and certainly of the last month. The president often threatens tariffs. This time he went through with tariffs, and now we are learning that he is pulling back those tariffs. Let's start with Mexico. President Trump this morning had a call with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum. He reported out a little bit of what they said, and in that, he said he is lifting the Mexico tariffs for at least a month. Let's take a look at his rationale as he explained it on social media. He said, "I did this as an accommodation and out of respect for President Sheinbaum. Our relationship has been a very good one, and we are working hard together." He goes on to say to stop undocumented immigrants and fentanyl. Then he also is using this to contrast his conversation yesterday with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. So he has not yet said that he's going to lift the tariffs on Canada, but that is coming, and we learned that today from Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick.
My expectation is the president will come to the agreement today, and hopefully we will announce this today, that USMCA compliant goods will not have a tariff for the next month until April 2nd. Hopefully Mexico and Canada will have done a good enough job on fentanyl that this part of the conversation will be off the table and we'll move just to the reciprocal tariff conversation.
So look, yesterday, President Trump in the White House was saying that Canada had not done enough on fentanyl. Today, the Commerce Secretary says Canada has done enough. That underscores one reality, that fentanyl is not it may be the stated reason, but it's not the actual reason that the tariffs have been put in place, because very little fentanyl comes from Canada. From Mexico, however, it does. So, Dana, the bottom line to all of this is we have seen the president, he's a believer in tariffs, there's no doubt about it, but when he starts hearing the pushback and seeing the pushback in the markets, he reacts and changes his mind. We're told he will be speaking on this later this afternoon, and the White House is also saying that the reciprocal tariffs, the bigger batch, if you will, is still going into effect on April 2nd. But I think now every time we talk about the threat of tariffs, we have to keep in mind, sometimes he gives them and sometimes he takes them away. Dana?
Or maybe he won't take them away. We still are not clear, beyond what he posted about Mexico, what that means for Canada and beyond. Jeff, thank you so much. The uncertainty is not confined to Pennsylvania Avenue. Business leaders from Wall Street to Main Street are definitely feeling it too. I want to go right now to Matt Egan, who has been talking to those business owners. And Matt, it is not a coincidence that Howard Lutnick went on a business network to say these are perhaps not going to happen now, a business network that everybody who is on Wall Street watches. It seems to me that what he was trying to do was to help correct the markets, which are totally confused and worried. And we all know that confusion is not a place that the market wants to be. And we also know that the markets are an indicator of an economy that President Trump has historically been very, very keen to watch.
Yeah, that's right, Dana. Look, business owners, CEOs, investors, they crave stability. But what we're getting right now is a whole lot of uncertainty and, frankly, chaos, right? It feels like each week or maybe even each hour, there's new tariffs that are threatened, right? Some of them kick in, some of them are pulled back at the last moment after a very good phone call between President Trump and a world leader. Others are still looming. Look at this tariff timeline. This is just tariffs related to Mexico, Canada, and China. And just since late November, there's been so many major moves. This doesn't even account for the tariffs that have been threatened on steel or aluminum or copper or the reciprocal tariffs or the tariffs on nations that threaten the US dollar. I mean, we literally could not fit all of the major tariff actions on one full screen. And look, if you're a CEO, if you're a business owner, this is not what you want to see, right? They famously hate uncertainty, but it's hard to imagine a more uncertain environment than this, because think about it, a lot of them are trying to figure out the cost of their goods, but they don't know what the cost of their goods is going to be because they don't know where tariffs are going to be. So they don't know if they should be raising prices or lowering them. Should they be firing workers or hiring them? Should they be investing more or less? There's actually an uncertainty index when it comes to trade policy, and it is through the roof. It has skyrocketed to all-time highs, surpassing anything that we've seen going back to 1960, including even higher than during President Trump's first term. And that makes sense because what he's doing is just so much more aggressive in terms of size and scope than during his first term. I talked to a business owner in California who owns a pet supply store, and he said, look, he's not a fan of the tariffs, but it's the uncertainty that's even worse. He said it's just very stressful right now because he's trying to follow it all, but he just can't keep up. And I would just note that from the White House perspective, I do think an element of this trade volatility is probably a feature. It's not a bug, right? The president views tariffs as a way to gain leverage over other nations. And so by keeping everyone guessing, it enables the president to put even more pressure. But look, Dana, we are seeing this show up in the real economy, and it is really starting to pressure things.
Yeah, and as you were talking, we just got an update on where the Dow is, Matt, down 500 points. And so this is clearly what Howard Lutnick was trying to arrest, that drop. Thank you so much for that. And we should also note that we're going to be talking tomorrow, no doubt, because tomorrow the jobs report will come out, and we already got an early indicator that it is not likely to be very good. I do now want to talk to some other terrific reporters that we have assembled today. Peter Hamby of Puck, Jeff Mason of Reuters, Mariana Sotomayor of The Washington Post. Thank you all for being here. Jeff Mason, I want to start with you. You have covered the White House for a few years on all kinds of policy, especially and including economic policy, and you were covering it during the first Trump go-round. So I think what Matt said about this being part of the strategy, not a bug, but this is kind of the way that the president likes to put his tariff policy out there, is true. But because there is so much, and it's already on top of a crisis of affordability in the United States, this feels different right now.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I would piggyback on to something that Matt said, that in addition to the volatility in the markets, which average Americans will note in their 401ks and investment accounts, but it goes a lot further than that for businesses. As Matt was saying, to plan for your goods, to plan for what products need to be purchased, for what supplies need to be purchased, for where you want to keep your factory, for where you want to have your headquarters. All of those things factor into business decisions that are affected by this volatility, and the volatility is so massive because the president keeps changing his mind back and forth. I suspect rather that that's one of the reasons that the Dow is going down again today. I mean, partially you would think that it would go up because he's giving another reprieve, and all of the other reprieves that he's granted have been positive in the markets. This one isn't being seen that way, and I suspect if he spoke to analysts or traders that it's the erratic nature of his decision making that is affecting that.